Good evening from Hyde Park. It has just turned 11 o'clock and I'm sat by the black and the white swan who are just a few meters away from me. And they're doing their swan-like business. I'm on my way back home from the Royal Opera House. We had our fourth performance of Aida this evening, which went well. And I want to talk to you about Alison Goldfrapp. It's her birthday today, the 13th of May. And she is a musician and a producer, English. And she's part of a duo called Goldfrapp. The duo is with Will Gregory, who plays synthesizer and vocals. And I was reading a interview today from 2017 with T. Cole Rachel. It's titled The Creative Independent, and I'll put a link in the description. And I thought I would share 3 points that I kind of took to from the interview. I think it's quite illuminating and, just gives you a little bit of an insight into this artist, Alison Goldfrapp. So the first thing I want to mention is they were talking about this idea of balance. And the question is, at this stage in your career, do you feel like you can control or premeditate the sort of things you make? Or is there a certain element of whatever happens in the studio is just going to happen? And Alison says, I definitely think there is an element of whatever happens just happens. Quite often we set out to do one thing and somehow end up doing something completely different. I think that always happens in the process, so you have to be open to that. I don't think you ever really know what it is until you are in the process of doing it. It's a delicate process of being careful and aware of what you are doing and making, but also not being too self-aware or overthinking things. You want to play up to your strengths, but I'm also always quite aware of us not repeating ourselves. There are certain ideas or obsessions that you might have come back, and I think you can always have themes and certain elements that reoccur, and that's great. But at the same time, you never want to feel like you are rehashing something. It's a weird thing. Sometimes you aren't even conscious of those things. So when you're making something, it's this very weird ground where you don't want to be overly self-aware, but you are also mindful of this thing you're trying to make, this place you're trying to get to, this sound you're trying to achieve, and you're always trying to get some balance between the two. I really like that. This balancing act between not being overly self-conscious, but then also having to actually be quite conscious or conscientious and thoughtful about what it is you're doing and what you're trying to say. The second bit is talking about the hands-on approach and just really being involved in all elements of the work. So the question was, speaking of advice, what do you tell aspiring musicians or young bands who are looking for ways to get their music into the world? And Alison says, I suppose I haven't got any sort of particularly wise words really, other than you should work really, really hard. And the work is not always what you think it is. There is no getting around the work requirements. Also, the creative side is only part of the work. I work really hard. For me, that means I'm working on all levels throughout the whole thing, producing, writing, and now doing things like taking the photos and designing things. I'm involved in every aspect of it. I think that is actually really, really important. It's one thing getting to a certain place professionally, getting people to pay attention to you, achieving some kind of success, but maintaining that success, keeping it going and growing, that's a different kind of work. If you decide to do this, to have a band or to make music or be an artist, you have to be really involved in every possible aspect and keep your eyes on every detail, even though some of the stuff seems really boring. You must. Even at a small level, just starting out, you have to pay attention to all that stuff or it will totally get away from you. You can't assume that anyone else is looking out for you. Again, I really love what she's saying here and in particular just really taking control of well, not taking control, but being involved in all of the very manifold aspects of your business, your work. And lastly, At the end of the interview, there's a kind of section recommended by Alison Goldfrapp. And then Alison says, I'm not sure that I have any specific recommendations, but it's really important for me to be in nature. I find it really healing and also creatively inspiring. I read a lot and see lots of films. As the world becomes more absurd and scary, the more I crave being in the presence of art. Looking at art, making art, being creative. All of these things are more important than ever. That's what I always come back to. Art is a lifeline for all of us. And I'm not talking about escapism. That word actually kind of annoys me because I don't think looking at art or watching a really beautiful film is escapism. Art helps us connect very deeply to these parts of ourselves that we tend to ignore or overlook sometimes. It's mind expanding and heart expanding and soul expanding, and it keeps us all connected. So yeah, that's what I always come back to when I need to be inspired. Go outside, go be with some art, then go make some art. And with that, I will say happy birthday to Alison Goldfrapp. Thank you for your wonderful words, and I really hope that something here has resonated with you. I don't think what she's saying is specific to any one type of line of work. I think it's really great advice for anyone pursuing, I think, any kind of creative adventure, anything really. I'm going to leave you with this song called Happiness by Goldfrapp, and I love this song, I love the lyrics, and I think it sums up what I really am trying to do here with the Hanamichi and the flower path.